Hello and welcome back to the ministry, and today we are talking about financial maturity. I'm going to go through a couple of things. This is actually in relation to the article in which I already spoke. Well, I didn't speak about it, but I wrote this about 5 years ago. All the stuff I'm going over, I wrote about 5 years ago. You won't hear me say that a lot every time I talk about something, because I'm really literally coming from, I'm in the maturity of a place that the Lord is now letting me speak on the things that I was writing about years ago. But I had to come to the level of maturity to be able to speak from a spiritually secure place to talk about these things. So today we're talking about a financial security or maturity in order to have good stewardship of the blessings in which are about to be released to us. So what am I talking about? It says in the word that God makes us a good steward of what we have before he gives us more. So what is it that we already have that the Lord has given you, and do you know how to steward it? If these past 2 years of this Pandora's box, because that's what it felt like, has not taught us anything, it's about being a good steward. If we know anything in this season more than anything else, the Lord is preparing to release a financial wealth transfer. And because of that, if you listen to anybody that you listen to that is a minister, I'm guaranteeing you one of them touched on the financial wealth transfer that is about to occur. And because of this financial wealth transfer, we need to get our houses in order to prepare ourselves for the things in which we've been praying for. For those of us that have been praying for marriage, for those of us that have been praying for restoration, for those of us that are in a transient season and we're waiting for establishment, how are you going to maintain and manage that establishment, whether you're getting married or you're not getting married? How are you planning to maintain that? Because a lot of people are in that mode. Well, we're praying to God, God's going to do it. But how are you going to steward it? God may provide the blessing, but how are you going to steward it? God teaches you how to fish. He doesn't always get the fish to you. Sometimes you'll pray, God, I want a financial release, and he'll release a job to you. Sometimes the Lord will give you a financial release, but what will end up happening is the financial release is in parts. How are you planning to steward each part in which he plans to release into you? How are you managing your money in the season in which you have that money to manage? This is what we're discussing today. Because if these past 2 years have taught you nothing, it's the fact that, and I was speaking about this actually on my podcast the other day, but I came here to speak more biblically about it. You should at the very least make it a well-known, important fact to save up to 2 to 4 years of savings to cover all your bills, all of everything. Because of what just happened, you need to have a nest egg. Most people have no nest egg, no savings, and if they do have a savings, it may cover everything for 6 months. Now, some might say, but I gotta trust the Lord. You do have to trust the Lord. You do have to trust the Lord. And the Lord is our provider, but he also wants to see how in which you will save. Because sometimes he will provide you something and he will release it to you. It'll be a lump sum of money. And when it's a lump sum of money, he wants to make sure that you are stewarding that money appropriately. What? Okay. I used this example before. Don't beat me up because I am using this as an example, but it happened recently, so we're going to use it, okay? Let's say you managed to go out one day. You walked outside and on a whim you saw a lottery ticket on the ground. You picked it up and you saw the numbers on it and you said, I would just put this in my pocket. You go home and find out that that's the winning lottery ticket of a $1.5 billion jackpot. What are you going to do? You didn't buy the lottery ticket. There is no endorsement signature to show who bought the ticket. Because if it was, I'm pretty sure as a Christian you would return it to the person that the ticket came from. But if you found the ticket and it was a winning ticket and it was $1.5 billion, now what? How are you going to steward that? What would you do in order to protect the wealth in which you just came into? Well, for one, as it states, if we are Christian here, Malachi 3:10-12, New International Version. Bring thee all the tithes unto the storehouse, that there may be food in mine house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there will be not enough room enough for you to store it. I will prevent pests from devouring your crop, and vines in your field will not drop fruit before they are ripe, says the Lord Almighty. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for yours will be a delightful land, says the Lord Almighty. So the first thing you would do is take that money and take your 10% out. Most people would be like, oh my God, 10% of 1.5 billion is 1.5 million. Is it 1.5 million? Or I think it's actually $150 million. Take that $150 million and you give that to your church organization. Whatever your church organization is. Do you not? Some people will say, oh my God, I can't do that. I heard a minister saying this the other day. She was chastising whoever it was that had the audacity to say to stop tithing your money. The reason that you tithe your money is to protect it from a siphoning spirit, from taking the money and right after you get it, you sow that money as soon as possible. Immediately. I remember there was 2 occasions I had gotten 2 large lump sums of money. The first one I had gotten $2,000. Was it $2,000? Yeah, it was $2,000. And it was I think it was like 2,400. And I sold 1,700 into a church the day that I got the money and could cash the check. I immediately went to a church that the Lord put on my spirit to take the money to. And I took it to that church and sold into their ministry. They actually got a little scared because I went in the bathroom for a minute because I was trying to, first I had to go to the bathroom, second I had to get the money and separate it the way that I needed to separate it. So I'd have my money, they'd have their money, in the way that I'm meticulous like that. And I gave it to them, and they were like, oh my God, and they went and they counted it, and it was exactly the amount that I said that it was going to be. And they're like, are you sure you want to give this? I was like, yes, I am. And I gave that amount of money. The next amount, I had $12,000. $12,570. $12,750 is what I had. I took immediately, I went to my online church app, and because I know that you can do transactions for small amounts of money, you can go up to I think it's $10,000, or maybe it's $5,000 digital. So I immediately sold my 10% off of that 12, which was $1,275 to my church immediately. And let me tell you, every place I spent money after that, I got discounts. I mean, it was ridiculous, the discounts I was getting. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of dollars of discounts on everything. Every time I went out shopping for anything that I needed. Anything. So first, you give your 10%. Next, what do you need to, is there any ministries? For me, there are 3 ministries I know off the top of my head that I would automatically give, or literally join their partnership program, because all 3 of them, I believe, have a partner sowing seed that you can sow at the $100, $150 level. So I would immediately do that and set up a card specifically, because when I last had my bank account, I set my bank accounts up. I actually got 2 bank cards. One, was it 2 bank cards? Yes, I got 2 bank cards. One bank card was specifically for giving. If you saw my bank statements for that bank card, all of it was giving into these church ministries. Same church ministries I'm talking about. 3 church ministries. I would always give to them, and then my main church. So I give my 10% to my main church, and I would literally divide a second 10% between these 3 churches. So I might sit up there and say, oh my God, you did it. You divided? Yeah, I did. Every time I got money, I would divide another 10% into those 3 locations. And then I had another young woman. She wasn't a minister, but she was a Christian woman that coached me. So this was my education. Me sewing into my education. I would sew into her anywhere. I would sew either the 10%, because usually I didn't have that much. So I would sew 10% into her. For educational purposes, I've sold over $10,000 into her ministry. Well, her coaching. And she would always pray over me every single time. She would pray over me, and one time she literally told me that the seeds that I have sowed, period, were breaking seeds, breaking poverty off of myself and my family line. So yeah, 30% gone of whatever I was giving. So why is that important? Because God wants to see how you steward your money. Savings. Like I said, if you have the ability to, you set up a nest egg. Whatever it is that you are planning to do, you set up a nest egg account. Now, some might say, if you had $1.5 million, how are you going to set up a nest egg account? Money Mutual and a savings plan. What's your excuse now? You create a savings Money Mutual, and then you start investing. But I don't know how to invest. There's a great financial advisor I watch all the time. His name is Boyce Watkins. He always is telling you exactly how to invest your money. But if you're a Christian, 9 times out of 10, you better take your investments to the Lord first, and let the Lord tell you where you should be investing. Because the Lord will show you places that most people will not know to invest their money. And the money will not only grow, but it will multiply, compound interest, so on and so forth. These are the things in which you need to do, especially in a time and a season and society that we're living in right now. For my people that are preparing for marriage, let's say you don't have no money right now. Let's say the Lord is preparing you for a marriage where you will come into the inheritance. Ruth Boaz. Ruth became a well-balanced financial invested person when she married who? Boaz. But when she got that money, I'm sure she had to be aware of what needed to be done. I I don't always take much advice from anybody, but I'm gonna say this, and I kept this video on my Instagram for this purpose, the audio clip of what Steve Harvey said. Where his faith level is iffy, but what he said was important. You should have, if you are married, you should have your account, your husband should have their account, you should have a joint account, and then there needs to be, I believe, a nest egg, but it should be a fourth account. I forget what that fourth account's supposed to be, but these 4 accounts are the ones that you need to have if you're getting married. And if your husband trusts you enough, he will allow you to take the 10%, just the 10% out of every account, and put it into a sewing place automatically. And if he trusts you enough, y'all two will sit down and have that conversation, and it will automatically take all the money in all of your accounts every time you put new money in. For instance, if you come together and you found, okay, this is the money, this is your amount, this is my amount, this is the joint account amount, all of y'all gonna take off the top before you split it into these accounts. You're gonna take that 10% off, and you're gonna sew it to wherever it is that, if you got a joint church that y'all go attend to, that's where that money go. That first 10% off the top before you even set it in your accounts, because that's to protect the money once it gets in your accounts. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? And then you got that nest egg account where you're saving that 1, 2, 4 years of money in the case of an emergency. Because people got tested in these past 2 years if their financial investments was strong in their nest egg. If their businesses were managed to able to be able to keep afloat in the case of an emergency. Meaning you have to have enough money. If you have your own business with a brick and mortar store, that means you got to have enough money to cover the expenses for that location. I took culinary, and I literally listened to a man tell us about the way that when he purchased his restaurant, it was $30,000 a month for rent. Think about that, times 12, times however many years he had his restaurant. And then that's per seats per head if you fill the restaurant by square footage every night to pay for that per month. And your expenses to buy the food and all that type of stuff. Think about that. And the cost of the food is the split up of the overhead of the location. A lot of people don't understand that when you see chain stores, whether it's a franchise store, whether it's a clothing store, the overhead is what is split up into the cost of each item that is hanging on the rack. People are sitting there, oh my God, this is $150. You're paying overhead. You're paying overhead. That garment may have cost only about $10 and about $3 to produce, but you're paying the overhead to keep it hanging in that store. In the case that somebody don't buy it, and then they have to send it off to a bargain basement or a bulk store for other things, for it to be sold off at probably the rate that it actually costs. $5, $10, $15, a $300 shoe for $65. But how are we stewarding our money? Now, let's say the Lord has called you to a life of Paul, to a life to be a disciple like what was her name? Not Deborah, because Deborah was married to Barak, so she was married. But there were financial treasurers in Jesus' ministry that were female, that were not married. I think it was the other Mary, not Mary Magdalene. Maybe it was Mary Magdalene. I'm not sure which one. I will check that. If y'all want to be helpful, you can always tell me. But yeah, if you're called to a life where the Lord has not given you a spouse, how are you stewarding your money if money was released to you? Is your accounts in order? The first thing that I did when I wanted to get my money in order was, as soon as money was released to me, I took that money to the bank. I opened up an account. If I had a balance, I think I had a minor balance with that bank, so I paid off the balance that I had, and then I started to split my money into a giving account, a regular account for my regular expenses, and I think I had a third account for savings. And they said I could open a fourth account, but they said that was my limit for that bank. But I did not open it. And I ended up coming back, and my fourth account ended up being my secured credit account. So I would put my money weekly into those accounts. And once I had good stewardship with that, they had suggested to me to get a secured credit account. So I got the secured credit card after I checked my 3 FICO scores. And I saw that I needed to improve my credit score. I went and I got the secured credit account, and I paid that regularly by switching all of my minor expenses, like my Amazon Audible book, my Amazon regular book, my Kindle, my Spotify, my YouTube Premium, all that kind of stuff, little stuff that I kept. I realized I could use that on the secured credit card to increase my credit score, because I was paying bi-monthly anyway for that on my regular cards. So I moved that over and made that a good stewardship thing. And by the time September of last year rolled around, they were ready to give me a credit card. If it hadn't been that I ran out of money at the time, I ran into a financial block. The devil always come at you your money right when you get it good. I ran into a financial block, and but I actually think that was the Lord allowed that to happen, because I think all of that money was literally to test to see my ability to steward the money. But I got everything in order. Because had I not run into a financial roadblock right there, I would have literally started my business, because I had an EIN number for my business, and I was literally right at the point that when I got that credit card, I was going to turn it over into a business credit. Another good stewardship tactic I would give you is this: that if you have money and you have bills, see how many months ahead of time you can pay the bills up. I always paid my cell phone up at least 6 months. What you do is you pay it, and what they do is they put credit on your account. So let's say you have a BGE bill, or whatever your general electric, whatever your electric bill is. You go and you say, I'm going to pay this up for a year. And they're like, oh, well, you can't pay blah, blah, blah. Well, I want to take it and I want you to put it on there as a credit. You get a receipt for the money that you put on that credit. You keep it in your records. And then you keep that reference number for that receipt to show, just in case somebody wants to go look in your account and say, oh, I didn't have that. Yes, you did. Here's the account. When you know what happens, I love to call this the zero bill formula. Zero bill. You have zero account balance. We'll call you next month. And if you continue to do that, and you pay all of your bills up for a month or two, for a year or two, depending on how much they have a limit, because they might have a limit of how deep you can pay into it. So if you can pay 12 months, pay 12 months. If they allow you to pay 24 months, pay 24 months. Ergo, we just came out of a panorama. What in the world? I guarantee you, people had credits to pay for 24 months, they'd have been happy campers right then to pay on credit. Then they knew that their bills would have been covered. And you keep a nest egg fund for another 2 or 4 years. Think ahead of time. Be a good steward of what you have. For the blessings of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. You shall be a lender and not a borrower. The blessing of the Lord make it rich. But you start by giving God with his 10%. So let's say you did get a financial wealth transfer of $1.5 billion. What are you going to do? How are you going to give? How are you going to bless others? First thing, you take that to the Lord and say, I just received this amount of money. Lord, how would you like me to use this money? 9 times out of 10, depending on what kind of way in which the Lord gives it to you. Because if God gives it to you, he most likely will give it to you all at once. But sometimes he will break it up into pieces as needed so that it will support you over a period of time in which he needs to support you in. Because see, people win these lotteries, and I literally read a book from the library. It talked about, it was from a lawyer that handled cases dealing with people having won large sums of money, and what usually happens when they either take the whole sum of money out or if they break it down into pieces. Now, he was saying that you should actually take the whole sum of money out, and I'm saying that like, no, but because what was happening was the people were spending the money in 6 months. Why? Because they were flossing with their family members. So they were out of money in 6 months. But my thing is this. I think that in itself is, if they had it split up that they would get lump sums per year, and they're out of money in 6 months, that means they need to check their stewardship on the next year of how they steward it. But having it like that is actually the safest way to do it, to me. Because it prevents you from having access. Now, they sitting up there threatening the financier. Pay close attention to what I'm saying. They sitting up there threatening the financier about not giving them extra money so that they can live off of it for the remainder of the year. That was their own problem. If you know that you have this amount of money per year, you need to understand that you need to balance it out. Stewardship it, have a necessities fund, have a play money fund, have a education fund, have your giving fund, meaning either you are giving, you have a God pocket, you have this is the sowing into your ministries and philanthropy. This is your education, nest egg. How are you protecting the money? And if you got large amounts of money like that, how are you spreading it out into your money mutuals, secured credit, all of these types of things? The highest level I remember when I got my secured credit is, I think it went up to $4 grand. I could have opened a secured credit card for $4 grand. And at the time that it asked me about doing the secured credit for $4 grand, I could have actually did $4 grand. But I chose not to, and I'm glad I did it, because not the interest rate, but the rate of payment per month would have been higher than what I had. So I was glad to have done it the way that I did it. But these are all things that you need to think about in order to maintain yourself financially if you are preparing for a financial wealth transfer. So how are you getting your house in order right now? Getting your bank accounts in order right now? If you don't have a bank account, maybe you should think about go to the grocery store and buy a gift card for that you can put up to $25 to $500 on, just to have money saved somewhere. 2, if you can get one of those Excelia or one of those little Brinks cards, you can order them. You can go online right now and order a Brinks card. Take a card like that, put whatever money that you can on it, just to save money to put in the bank account. 3, TD Bank, Capital One. Some of them have light interest rates when you open the account. You can open an account for anywhere from $25 to $100. Some maybe $300 if their interest rate hasn't gone up. And you can save that money on that gift card, save that money on that prepaid card, and then go in and put that money on an account. Split the accounts to as many as the bank will allow you to. Capital One allows you to split it into 6 accounts. TD Bank allows you to split it into 4 accounts you can get. And I would do 3 accounts and 1 secure credit card. But have a way to set yourself up so that when the money comes, you have somewhere to put it. I'm not sure how much money you can put on a prepaid card, but some people say they don't want to put the max on a prepaid card because there isn't financial insurance on those prepaid cards. But a bank will insure you up to $500,000. And TD, I found that they had an unlimited amount of insurance. So there's no limit on the amount of money that they can insure. So if you have a large amount of money and you come in and you've already set up your secure credit card, you already have your bank account, and you have your bank set up, they'll be like, okay, we got you. So how are you operating in financial maturity in this season to prepare for the financial wealth transfer? This is Taj McCameron. Until next time, bye-bye.